Welcome back. If you're here, you already know the stakes when it comes to modern military strategy, so you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're bringing you an explainer on what was basically the ultimate demonstration of India's kinetic military power. We are looking at the massive 2024 air exercises conducted by the Indian Air Force, specifically Vayu Shakti and Gaganshakti. So let's just dive straight into this. We're going to deconstruct exactly what happened up in the skies, what it actually means down on the ground, and why these events have pretty much completely reshaped the strategic calculus in the entire region. Here is our quick roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover displaying ultimate air power, firepower versus full mobilization, the strategic significance, the very real challenge of squadron numbers, and finally, we'll wrap up with psychological deterrents and key takeaways.
All right, Section 1, displaying ultimate air power.
These mega exercises, they aren't just your run-of-the-mill Tuesday training drills. They are absolutely unprecedented flexes of military muscle. At their core, we're talking about the two most significant war games ever conducted by the Indian Air Force. And you might be wondering, why go this big? Well, because they're designed specifically to project heavy deterrence and validate their operational readiness. Conducting massive operations like this back-to-back was heavily monitored by design. It was engineered to send a very clear, completely undeniable message to monitoring nations, particularly Islamabad and Beijing, about India's immediate combat readiness. Historically speaking, these exercises were spaced out, separated by about 3 years just to test capabilities without totally overstretching resources. But early 2024, that completely shattered the norm. First came Vayu Shakti out at the Pokhran range in Rajasthan. Then, literally just weeks later, the IAF launched Gaganshakti, which was a massive pan-India operation. Executing both of these back-to-back is an unbelievable logistical leap. And this rapid escalation is actually paving the way for later in 2024, culminating in the upcoming Tarang Shakti exercise, which is going to involve multiple foreign air forces flying alongside the IAF right in India. Moving right along to Section 2. Firepower versus full mobilization. Okay, to really understand these operations, we've got to separate them. Vayu Shakti is pure, unadulterated firepower. Taking place at the Pokhran range, it was all about a day and night brutal display of precision destruction. It's highly localized but incredibly intense. Gaganshakti, on the other hand, is a completely different beast. This is full-scale mobilization. It's a pan-India, two-front war simulation where the IAF essentially mobilized its entire combat fleet. We are talking about launching jets from the western border with Pakistan and rapidly redeploying them all the way to the eastern border with China within hours. Pulling off operations of this magnitude requires a mind-bending amount of coordination. Naturally, the Indian Air Force leads the charge with the actual combat operations, but they are heavily supported by the Indian Army, which provides the enormous logistical backbone and that joint operational integration you need to literally move fleets across a subcontinent. And, of course, we absolutely cannot forget the third group, the adversaries. These exercises are highly transparent on purpose because they are meant to be watched, tracked, and measured via satellites by anyone monitoring the region's power dynamics.
So, what does this all mean? Section 3, impact, the strategic significance.
The absolutely crucial point here is understanding the 3 strategic pillars the IAF just proved. Step 1. Validating two-front war readiness. By instantly pivoting forces from the Western theater to the Eastern theater during Gaganshakti, the IAF proved they can actually sustain high-tempo combat operations against both Pakistan and China simultaneously. Step 2. Executing surge operations. This basically means flying continuously, day and night, testing the absolute limits of the logistics and maintenance crews without the aircraft just breaking down. And step 3, showcasing indigenous might, proving that their local tech can definitely hold its own on a modern battlefield. Zooming in on that third pillar, Vayu Shakti specifically highlighted the concept of Atmanirbharta, or self-reliant India. You see, this wasn't just a flashy display of imported firepower. The whole strategy was to place indigenous weapons directly on center stage alongside top-tier imported platforms like the French Rafale. By seamlessly integrating the two, the IAF was proving that their locally developed technology isn't just for show. It is fully combat-ready and fully integrated into their primary strike packages. And that specific indigenous tech absolutely made its mark in the Pokhran Desert. We saw the Tejas fighter jets proving their agility and the Prachand helicopters demonstrating close air support. Over on the defense side, the Samar air defense system was showcased.
And for the very first time, indigenous weapons like the Astra Beyond Visual Range Air-to-Air Missile and the Akash Surface-to-Air Missile System took center stage. Seeing these platforms execute perfectly in a high-stress, day-and-night environment, well, that really validates decades of domestic research and development. Let's put this into a global perspective for a second. Exercises of this sheer scale and logistical complexity, they are typically only conducted by top-tier militaries like the US, Russia, and China. By successfully executing this, India is firmly placing itself in that exact same league. Geopolitically speaking, pulling this off strongly reassures India's international allies like the US and France, proving for sure that India is a highly capable net security provider in the notoriously volatile Indo-Pacific region.
Which brings us to a much harsher reality. Section 4, the real challenge, squadron numbers. So despite all the operational brilliance we just talked about, the Indian Air Force faces a really stark numerical deficit. While the officially authorized strength required to comfortably handle a two-front threat is 42 fighter squadrons, their current strength sits at just 31. That is a massive, glaring gap. Because look, you can have the best pilots and the absolute best technology in the world, but pure mathematics still dictates the reality of air warfare.
In a quick, short skirmish, technology and skill usually win the day. But in a real, grinding, prolonged two-front war, a sheer lack of numbers introduces catastrophic risks. You're looking at critical pilot fatigue from endless surge operations. You're looking at unavoidable aircraft attrition. When you only have 31 squadrons doing the work of 42, every single lost jet or exhausted pilot significantly degrades the overall operational capability of the entire force. It's a tough pill to swallow.
Wrapping things up, Section 5, psychological deterrence and takeaways.
Ultimately, the massive advantage of both Gaganshakti and Vayu Shakti is pure psychological deterrence. Yes, it's a great way to test logistics and weapons, absolutely. But mostly, it forces adversaries to seriously reconsider any military adventurism. When an adversary knows for a fact that the IAF can rapidly redeploy across the country and rain down precision destruction anytime, anywhere, even in pitch darkness, well, the calculus for starting a conflict changes pretty dramatically. All right, let's lock this in with your key takeaways for this explainer. Use these as your mental anchors. Remember these distinctions. Vayu Shakti equals firepower. Gaganshakti equals mobilization. The core objective across both was a two-front war simulation. And if you're discussing this topic later, your key buzzwords are surge operations, force projection, jointness between the Air Force and Army, and Atmanirbharta, showing off that indigenous tech.
I want to leave you with one final question to chew on. Can unparalleled technological skill and rapid surge capability permanently offset a sheer lack of numbers in a prolonged two-front conflict? The IAF has proven without a doubt they are a top-tier, highly lethal force capable of immense logistical feats. But the math of war is incredibly unforgiving. How India bridges that gap between 31 and 42 squadrons is absolutely going to define the future of air power in the region. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, stay focused, and I will see you next time.